Hi there, I'm Dani Henderson, and my guest today is a well-known author and speaker, and also from way back in her past, a Romanian immigrant. Today, she's going to share her story, and you might need a tissue or two. Sit back with an open mind and an open heart as we welcome Corina Pataki.
Thank you so much, Danny, for having me on. I really appreciate it. And I honor you allowing this time for me to come on and share this incredible story that I was part of as a little girl to right now share with the world and bring hope for whoever's going through hard times, whoever has been or has gone through some hard situations in their life. So thank you so much for allowing me to come here. Thank you.
I know we were just having a chat, but both feeling the kind of emotion because we know that this broadcast is going to elicit emotion and healing frequency in lots of people who watch it. Just even listening to your story as a little girl in war-torn Romania from 1980, which we're going to come right into. So we just want to prepare people, open mind, open heart, be loving with yourself. And for everyone watching, remember, that little girl inside of you and that little boy inside of you, your inner child, they're watching and listening to. So be kind and let those emotions release. All right, Angel. So let us start with the year 1980 in Romania. Please tell us how old you were, where you were living, and what was the political situation at that time.
So, the political situation was not good at all. It was a communism. It was the law of the land was communism, and there was no food, literally no food. In order to be able to feed yourself and your children, you would have to wait in line for hours to get such things as bread, butter. Um, Meat was rarely available. It was just a very dark period of time in the Romanian history, really, the modern day. There was no heat, like I said. They would give heat probably an hour or two in the morning and an hour or two at night. There was no hot water. They would give hot water again 1 hour in the morning, 1 hour at night. It was really bad. Everybody was in so much fear. Um, just felt like trauma was everywhere. So for us, I was 7 years old, and my parents decided to become Christians. My mom came from a background where she didn't even know there was a God because, again, Romania being under communist regime, Christianity was not allowed. So many people did not even know that there was such thing as a higher source, let alone, Jesus. And so, because there was a lot of persecution. So, my dad, however, came from a Christian family. And when I was 7, I remember I started first grade. They decided to become Christian, so accept Jesus in their heart. And this is when things shifted for us, because in this process of them becoming taken on this new journey in faith, a new faith to walk, they also decided that they were going to attempt to give us a better future. Especially as a Christian in communism, it was very hard because there was no future. You rarely had a future, but if they knew that you were a Christian, the persecution would start extremely hard, and children really didn't have a future. So my parents saw that and they decided that they were going to try to attempt to escape communist Romania.
This is so incredible and devastating. As we are gently going from 1980 to 2023, as we cover your story, I need for people to open their minds and their hearts and their reality, expand your bandwidth right now, because the story that you're hearing is going to be your literal life now in 2023 to 2030. We are talking about an agenda that has been played out so many times in so many countries on this planet. They know what works, and now they're going for the big game, and you are watching it happen, whether you choose to believe this or not. Don't say you didn't hear it, because it's happening right now with Corina Pataki. Corina, can you tell us briefly, for those that do not know, and it's okay, we can't know everything, fascism, communism, nobody always knows, what is communism?
Communism, the best way I can describe it in very simple terms, it's a regime that has a dictator at the top that controls every single move that you make, what you believe, when you wake up, what you do, what you eat, how much you eat, how much water you have, how much heat you have, what your future looks like, what your present looks like, what your past look like, what your present looks like, and what your future looks like. It's literally a imprisonment of humanity, with rooted in so much fear. It's a brainwashing, it's a fear, it's a manipulation, and it's a control. They literally program you from a young age with fear. Fear is at the core, at the root of communism, through control and manipulation. You cannot think on your own. You cannot dream. There's no way you can dream for hope and a future. You have to submit to the law of the land or else.
It's terrifying. And you
It's
grew up watching, and that was your programming, like the children the last 3 years who were born and going to school, and they've had to be masked up, and they've had to see their parents lose all control in their own homes. If you don't do this, take this, you lose your job, you lose your life, you lose your income. The children must be masked. The horror and the terror is identical. Wrap it in a virus. It's okay. If you choose to get triggered, guys, that's your choice. We're trying to outline something here that's happening in your world, and choose to see it or not. Imagine though, like being a kid, like knowing that you have to get up at this time because it's only going to be hot water to have a bath or a shower. You have to line up at the store at this time in case there's going to be meat. Maybe there's going to be, you're standing there dreaming about what you can eat, how you can feed your children. What a horrific, horrible way to live. And that was just in 1980. But you know what? China's been living that way, parts of China, for how many years? That was another model, a blueprint. China worked out. Now the powers that are not, but to control of our planet, they've gone, right, that works. Now we know we can bring it to all the other countries in the world. So
absolutely,
communism, my
absolutely.
goodness.
I mean, let me just give a picture of this. For instance, you wanted to get milk. You have 3 children. You had a card, and I don't remember. I know in English, there's a word for it. I don't remember it right now, but you had a card and it showed how many members, how many children you had. So based on the size of your family, you were able to go wait in line and you would get that particular amount of milk per each child. Now, these lines, Dani, were, let me just draw this picture, this real picture. Children were crushed in these lines to death. Because when they would open the doors, the stores would open the doors to start giving away. People were scared that there's not going to be enough left, which a lot of times there was not. So these children were waiting in line. For instance, for me, I would wait in line until my mom would come from work, or my brothers would wait in line until my mom or my dad would come from work. Then they would take our place. So you're talking about 5, 4, 6, 7 hours in line, where you would exchange one place for another. And when the doors would open, like I said, there were children that were suffocated in these lines. That is the hunger and the fear of not having. It's created a world of orphans, absolute orphans, bound in trauma and lack and not having, and fear and control. It was horrific. And as a little girl, for me to see that, I realized that I was there, but things took another level when we became Christians. That's when things started changing for the worse. Like, for instance, I'm the youngest. I have 2 older brothers, and it's 3 of us. I'm the only daughter. I'm the only girl, and their teachers, my brother's teachers, not with me as much because I was young, first grade. They started picking on my brothers and started physically abusing them when they found out they were Christians. My mom had a very high position. She was the head of a department in finances, and she lost her job even though they loved her because she was a Christian. So the trauma and the fear, because you knew you had the secret police coming after you, they call them securitate. They would come and follow you. the trauma of that, so it upped up the trauma of this control. And I knew that any moment they can stop you, they can kill you, because any sort of faith, specifically Christianity, was not allowed. Because why? Because they thought then, somebody can infiltrate their program, which it's in a sense, Christianity is a program itself also. So it's one program not allowing the other program. So there was such a battle. So, I would hear like Christians being beaten, being imprisoned. So even as a little girl, that added on, that trauma was jacked up at another level. And then when we decided to escape, oh my gosh, then that jacked up things even more. Because I heard stories, Dani, I would hear stories of people attempting to escape. As a matter of fact, there was a pregnant woman. She was a neighbor somewhere close to where my grandmother lived, in the village, in the city. And she was pregnant with a 5-year-old child, attempted to escape. They captured her. They beat her, killed her and her child, pregnant, and her little boy. And then, later on, I understood why. Because what they would do with these soldiers, if one person escaped, what they would do with the soldiers that are on the border that's supposed to protect the borders was horrific. They would beat them with metal poles. They would starve these soldiers. If one person attempted to escape, they would beat these soldiers. They would starve them. They would leave them in the rain naked, and they would take their privileges to go home. So when these soldiers, border patrol, would catch somebody on the border, they would take all their anger and their frustration out on these people, especially if they knew you were a Christian.
It's just beyond horrific. It's so heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking how cruel humans have been, but it's understanding the levels of fear and torture and mind control. And what happens is, even if somebody is raped and beaten and abused, like the soldiers obviously were too, there is a survival instinct that you are just born with. It's an innate energy in you to survive. And so we could look at those soldiers, as evil and awful and wicked as they were, and then look behind what trauma led them to that thinking, that psychological profiling where they're disassociated from everything that's right, that is right. And what we're seeing is everyone fighting and attacking each other, making up lies, calling people pedophiles when they're not, and stuff. But that's what the terror at the top, the terrorists that run our planet, that's what they've wanted and want. And they've got so good at knowing how to break humanity, how to break people. It's just so sad and so horrific. And so we go, you bucker, you this, you murderer, you this, you that, and we're all doing this, and they are laughing at us.
Absolutely.
They are laughing at us. Look at them arguing, fighting. Oh, they were so close to the truth. They were so close. Oh, but no, but we're not going here. We're not going to our town halls. We're not fighting for our children. We're not stopping the pornographic, pedophilic books that our children have been reading while they were in lockdown, while their parents were desperate to get them back into school. That's a whole other subject that's pulled back to you. Little baby girl. What was your thought when you knew people had been murdered, and yet you're 7 and you're escaping to wherever? How was that?
Well, so I'm gonna just jump into my story, if that's okay.
Jeez.
I was 7 years old the first time. I remember I got up early in the morning, and my mom said, let's get dressed. We're gonna get dressed. We're gonna get you dressed really thick, me and my brothers, because we're going to go to the village and we're going to visit a family. They're our family. You've never known about them, so you will get to meet them. So see, I was not told right away. I was not told for a little while what the plans that my parents had, because they were worried that when I will hear, I will react, and I'll tell you why. So all I knew, we were going to go on 2 little train rides to go to a village, and we're going to meet our new family that I've never met. So, they bundled me up because, it was cold. It was November. So Romania is quite cold. So I have to share this with you. We went on the first train. Everything was okay. We got off the train because we were supposed to change trains. The closer you got to the borderlands, the border of Romania with Yugoslavia or Romania with Hungary, the more the increase of the border patrol was. So we got off of the first train, and we went by a little pond, and my father set me down, and he said to me, he opened up his pig leather coat. I'll never forget it. It's a black coat. He opened it up, laid it on the wet grass, and said, Corina, lay down here. I lay down. I saw the little ducks in the beautiful water right there, small puddle. And he said, Corina, you cannot react. I'm going to tell you something now, but you cannot react. And I said, okay, I promise I won't. He said, we're not going to visit our family. We're actually going to attempt to escape Romania and go to America. Oh my gosh, Dani, you have to understand, in my mind, America was the land of milk and honey, was paradise.
Yeah.
My little brain, the only way I could describe that I can see it was me as a little girl jumping over a fence and I'm in America. But then reality set in, because I started remembering the horror stories that I was hearing. So I started getting really scared. And I got so scared that I was shaking at the very core of my being. So my dad grabbed me. Now, he said, Corina, you cannot react. We are going to get in this train. And there's a lot of border patrol looking for anyone that looks suspicious. You cannot react. You're going to have to be calm. So I was the last one that they told. My brothers knew about it. So we got on the train, Dani. As we got on the train, a whole bunch of border patrol came with their rifles. The train started moving slowly, and they stopped at every aisle. So we were I was sitting with my mom and my brother on this bench, and my dad was sitting with my older brother on this bench. They started walking next to each aisle, Dani, staring the people up and down, staring. Right the bench in front of us, they grabbed them. They started kicking them, punching them, while the train was moving, throwing them off the train and jumping down.
Oh my God.
So you had other soldiers coming, and they were approaching. And I cannot tell you, fear is not even a word. That gripped me. And my mom whispered to me, she said, baby, close your eyes. Just close your eyes. Pretend you're sleeping. Just close your eyes. So I literally closed my eyes, and I put my head in my mom's chest and just praying, oh, Father, please let them pass, let them pass. So they passed. Now, I'm speeding it up just a little bit. We got to the village. It's a village like any European village, whole bunch of animals, right? And I have a point why I'm sharing this with you. We got to the village. In the house, we met a couple. And what happened is my dad paid them to draw us a map, how to cross the border into Yugoslavia. But you have to be very careful, because you cannot even trust your neighbor.
Yeah.
You cannot trust even family members. So there was another couple that came in this house. And Dani, it was a husband and a wife with a 6-month-old baby. So I'm getting to parts where it's miraculous, because our story was heard throughout regions of Romania because of the supernatural intervention of divine source. They could not deny it. Top communist leaders could not deny what they saw. So this couple comes in with a 6-month-old baby, and we're being told that they are part of our group. We are going to attempt to escape. So with a baby. So we have to wait until nighttime comes. And when everybody's asleep, and this is the first time and I say this in my book, this is the first time I've ever eaten mushrooms. This is my first time eating mushrooms, because that was the last dinner that I thought I was going to have in Romania. And Dani, the baby wouldn't fall asleep. The baby was screaming at the top of his lungs. So back then they had a sleeping syrup that you would give to children. And they gave the baby some sleeping syrup, still wouldn't sleep, screaming, screaming. They ended up giving that baby the whole bottle.
Wow.
And the baby finally slept. So here we go. It's time to leave. I remember my parents, all of us, going on our knees and asking Father to bless this journey. You can now, when you're a parent, only when you're a parent do you realize the boldness, the faith, or craziness that you as a parent, the desperation to bring your children to a land of hope.
Yeah.
Because you're willing to take their life and your life in your hands, trusting divine source that he, Yeshua is going to lead you. And you will not see your children being slaughtered in front of you. So here we go. It's time to leave. It's pitch dark. Now, Dani, remember I said village, your typical European village, lots of animals, lots of noise-making animals. So you have to get out of the house, single file line, not to draw attention because you have nosy neighbors. Immediately they see people that are, first of all, coming out of your house. Who are these people? And many people, they're going to call the Securitate, which is the secret police. So we got out. Do you hear me? Not one bark, not one move from a cow, not one, no sound from any animal. Single file line we went. We walked until there was the clearing of the open borders, and we went in. Now you have to understand, it was so dark and so cold. I could not even see my palm in front of my face. That's how dark it was. We walked about 45 to 50 kilometers. Now, let me explain to you. We knew that there were police, border patrol everywhere, and wolf dogs. Now, these wolf dogs were trained and tortured just like the humans. They would beat these literal wolf dogs and starve them. So when a wolf dog sensed a human, they would go after that human because you were their meal. So I knew we were warned. We got the talk. Don't talk. Crawl. Single file. If you can't find somebody in front of you, keep walking. We'll catch up. I'm 7 years old. Okay. Everything seemed to me like it was a guard. What they had booby traps, also metal lines going down by your feet. And when you would hit it, it would send rockets up in the air and it would give your location. So they were full of them, Dani. Now, what they also had on the borders were mud canals in the shape of a V. They used to use those as trenches during the wars, but now they filled them with mud. It was almost like quicksand, to where you would have to cross them. You couldn't go to the other side, and they were hoping that you would drown. So we had to cross a lot of these mud canals, a lot. I lost my shoes. My brothers lost their shoes. My feet were bloodied. So again, thinking as a parent, the trauma of that, looking back. So what happened, Dani, was either my dad, now remember, the baby's still sleeping, right? Going through mud canals, all of this stuff, the baby's still sleeping, 6 months old. So what would happen was my dad would take the map and go ahead and make sure that the land ahead is free. No soldiers, no wolf dogs, no booby traps. Then he would come back. And then another time, the other guy would go, and then he would come back. So what happens all of a sudden, Dani, is, and I remember this so clearly, there was like a train track. And all of a sudden, we realized that we went around the same train track again. So everybody stopped, and we realized that we were going in a circle.
Oh, no.
Time was ticking. It was getting to be about, 3:40, 4 o'clock. You're talking about villages. The villagers wake up, right, at the crack of dawn for their animals and whatnot. We were going in circles, and we did not know which way to go. The map, something was wrong, the way the map was drawn. My parents stopped, and they said, Father. We all stopped. They prayed. We grabbed hands, and they said, Father, lead us like you led the Israelites out. Listen to me, Dani. All of a sudden, in that dark sky appeared a cloud, not a big cloud, a small cloud, but it was big enough for us to see it. Listen, we had to cross a huge mud canal. It literally moved over the mud canal, and it stopped. As we crossed that mud canal, when we crossed the mud canal, the cloud, so When we crossed the mud canal, the cloud stopped, waited for us to cross. After we crossed, that beautiful cloud continued to lead us on the right path until we found our way and it disappeared.
Wow.
Okay. We realized, even as a child, I was very unique. I was a child. My connection with, the spirit realm, with divine creator, with Jesus was really different than your typical little child. So even at that age, we realized how miraculous these things were, but this was just the beginning. Do you want me to go on, or do you have a question?
No, please continue.
Okay.
So
So we had to start hurrying because we realized time was ticking. I remember seeing, you couldn't tell the shapes, but you can see kind of shadows in front. And Dani, I knew that I can hear soldiers talk, but my mom thought it was my hallucination. Remember, it was November. I had mud in my nose, all of us, my brothers, in my hair, my nose, my mouth. The clothes were frozen on our bodies, frozen. Okay. No shoes. So obviously my mom thought, hypothermia. Okay. So it was now my father's time to go check the grounds ahead. It was a little hill. My dad said, lay down on your stomachs. I'm going to go over the hill and make sure that there's no booby traps, no soldiers, no wolf dogs. We'll stay here. The couple with the baby went on their tummy with the baby. Me and my brothers with my mom went on our tummies. Dani, time started. It seemed like 5 minutes turned into an hour turned into 2 hours. I cannot explain to you. Now looking back, I know that we shifted timelines. Back then, I had no idea. What should have been a no more than 5 minutes, if that, turned into what seemed like hours. It started pouring down. Mud. We were filled with mud. My brother hears my dad calling his name. My mother hears soldiers talking. I hear dogs. So my brother says, my middle brother says, Mommy, I hear dad. My mom again, she's bawling. She's thinking my children, they're delusional. The cold, it's really affecting their ability to think. So my mom says, no, Castel, no, that's not dad. It's soldier. So she grabs his mouth. In the middle of that terror, like we don't know what to do. We don't know what to do. All of a sudden, a piercing sound comes through that darkness. The baby wakes up on the border, screaming at the top of his lungs. What do? You hear soldiers talking. The dogs, the wolves have already sensed you. You're on the border. My dad's ahead. We cannot leave without him. But the baby's screaming. Everybody's being alerted now. My mom grabs my hand, grabs my other brother's hand. My older brother jumps up. We have to run. Dani, where do you run to? All you see is land. You don't know what village you came from? Imagine, just like the earth behind you. What village did you come from? If every one of those lights is a village, where did you come from? Villagers are waking up. You can see the tiny flickering lights of homes turning on. They're waking up. Where do you go? Listen, there is a being in white that appears in that darkness. My brother saw this being. My brother was 12 at that time, motioning, saying, come, follow me, follow me. He says, Mom, I see a being. He's motioning us to follow. Dani, we go. Listen to what I'm telling you. From this huge land with villages everywhere surrounding it, we go to the exact same village. Now, listen again. The animals are up. They're already awake. Not one animal made a sound. We jump over brick walls of homes, crossing through fields. And we get to the exact same house that we left from.
What?
We get to the exact, I'm telling you, I want, if I may, I want to encourage all of you watching. This is just a little tiny glimpse of my story. You have a story. You have a beautiful story of survival, not only of that, but of victory. It doesn't matter. Yes, what you've maybe have gone through is horrible and it's hard. And trust me, I've gone through some horrible, hard stuff. But there is an answer and a supernatural intervention that is right there, ready to engage with you and bring you the victory. I've been through it. And this is just a little glimpse, Dani. It's just a little glimpse. Now, do you want to know what happened to my dad?
I want to know how you ended up back at the house you left hours ago, 50 kilometers. You mean you went all the way back?
Ran all the way. And even that is like time. We crossed timelines. There is no way we could have made it running with a baby screaming. May I tell a baby screaming, running to the exact same village in that short amount of time. Imagine, all these lights behind me. I'm looking at behind you. They're villages. Mm-hmm. Which one do you go to? This being of pure white light was literally leading us, waiting until we caught up and continuing to go ahead in front of us, leading us to the exact village. Not only that, but to the exact house. I remember crossing fields in this village, jumping over these brick walls, jumping over this brick wall, this brick wall, for us to get to the exact same house. Now, it happened in a fraction of the time it took us to go to the border, to be at the place where we lost my dad on the border. Now, when the people opened the door, their jaw dropped. It's a miracle. This being did not leave until we were at the door of the house. Then it disappeared.
And then where was your dad?
This is what happened to my dad. He said he went over the hill and he saw a thin baby tree. And he was looking around and he said he grabbed that tree and he went around it one time. At that moment, he said, I lost all sense of time and direction. Now, my dad is very good with direction. He's great. He said, it's like hours passed and I did not know what direction I came from. He fell on his knees crying. Father, what happened? Where do I go? My family. At that time, there were soldiers 15 feet away from him. They heard him. No, they were there talking. They heard something. Dani, listen to me. They heard something. They don't know what. My dad at that point in time did not care. He did not care because he said, I cannot leave my family out of what's happening to my family. He couldn't understand what was going on. So he got to a point in desperation where he didn't care. They took the flashlight because they heard something. Now, listen, 10 to 15 feet, you're going to hear somebody crying and screaming in prayer, right? Mm-hmm. They heard something. That's all. They heard commotion. They did not hear the screaming and the praying. They heard something and they put the flashlight on my dad and they couldn't see him. They started walking. They could not see him. And my dad fell on his knees with his hands up, tears streaming down his face. And he said, Father, what do I do? And he said that he heard, you must go and trust me with your family. Valentine, are you going to trust me? I trust you. No, are you going to trust me? I have a plan that you do not understand, but I need you to go. I'm going to lead you out of Romania. And I promise you, I'm going to protect your family, but I have a plan. Dani said that was one of the hardest things he had to do. Yeah. He didn't want to get up off the knees. He sobbed. He fell on, face down. And finally he said, okay, I trust you with my family. He got up and he started going. He was crying the whole way. He was crying. He didn't care. He said, I did not care because if he was really with me, he was going to be with you. with you guys also. In other words, if divine sorcerer was going to protect him from any of the soldiers around, he didn't care. He didn't hide anymore. He said, then I knew that that you were going to be protected as well. So he crossed the border into Yugoslavia, and there was some farmers there. And they saw my dad. My dad fell on his knees, sobbing. The lady picked my dad up, helped him, called him in the house, gave him water to wash clothes. My dad, the first thing he said when he got into their home, again, he fell on his face, just sobbing, saying, I'm here. Thank you. So there means that you're going to take care of my family. I don't know what you're going to do. I don't know what plan you have, but I trust you. I can't even imagine, Dani. I can't even imagine. So you have this thing here. Okay. He's in Yugoslavia, but Yugoslavia, the border patrol had, you scratch my back, I scratch yours with the Romanian border patrol. So 90% of the time they would turn people back to the Romanians. So this was another scary moment. So this couple, they fed my father. Now, my dad had nothing on him because my mom had all of his paperwork, all of his identity, everything. They fed my dad, then they took him down to the police station. And by a miracle, other people that were captured that day, because Romanians try to cross the border quite often because of the trauma.
Yeah.
They sent all of them back except my dad. Wow. So here we are, Dani, shifted back to us. Let me explain something to you. We were when I say full of mud, till this day, I cannot stand having my hair wet on my neck. I have to have it up. Full of mud everywhere. They could not get enough water for us, the pump in the villages, because it would draw attention. Do you understand? Not one neighbor saw us.
Wow.
We were invisible.
You were close.
There was an invisible shield put not only over my dad, but also over us. So they just brought water just in a little bowl, and they heated up the water, and all we could do is wash our hands and our face. And I remember they laid us down to sleep on this beautiful white downy bed, white crisp sheets. And oh my gosh, I couldn't sleep. My mom was crying. She didn't want to, tears streaming down her face. And, we were all in the same bed. I said, Mommy, where's Dad? Baby, I don't know, but I know he's going to make it. He's going to make it. The pain of that as a child, just for me and my brothers, was we really did not know if my dad was killed or not. So I finally fell asleep with that, I'm trying to speed up so I can share with you just a little bit more before we have to go. Do you want me to continue?
Please.
Okay. So, oh my gosh. So the next day, we're going to get back on those trains. Remember those trains? Where there's the border patrol looking for anyone that looks suspicious? Dani, we're full of mud from head to toe. The only thing that's not muddy is our face and our hands.
So are you now going back to the house you left?
Now we have to go back to my hometown. On 2 trains to take us to Timișoara, my hometown, which is the largest city in Romania, from the villages. And then take 1 bus and a trolley to get to my grandmother's house, which is my dad's mom. We had no clothes to change because the sack that my mom had with our clothes was soaked because that was dragged through the mud. There was no washing machine. You couldn't wash by hand and put it out. It would draw the attention of the neighbors, and it would be ice because it's November. So our clothes on our bodies were full of mud, dry mud. The only thing that was not muddy was our face and our hands. Okay. Get back in the train. Full of mud. With a bag, with clothes, a sack with clothes, full of mud. We got on the train, Dani. Hear me. Those same Border Patrol, those Border Patrol, not the exact ones, but the Border Patrol again came on the train looking at each individual person sitting or standing in that train. Danny, we were full of mud. They did not see us. We were completely invisible. Where we were sitting, they looked quickly. It's as if nobody was there. They looked really quick, literally like nobody was sitting there. And they moved on. This train stopped 2 separate times because they would get off and new Border Patrol would come on. The same thing happened. They did not see us. We got off the train. And again, it's when you're getting close to the border, the Securitate, the secret police, which look like you and me, you can never tell, or the Border Patrol is everywhere. Informants are everywhere, just like in the Nazi days. Mm-hmm. Okay? We got off the first train. Nobody looked at us. Now, when you see a woman with 3 children and you're full of mud from head to toe and you're coming from that region of the border, you're going to start thinking, because they were looking for that. Nobody saw us. Got on the second train. Nobody saw us. We reached our home city, Timișoara. Got on the bus. Nobody saw us. You know, Danny, when we were noticed, when we got on the trolley, the last leg of our journey, it was the last 10 to 15 minutes before we made it to my grandmother's house. It is like whatever was covering us was lifted off and people start staring at us from up and down, looking at us weird. But that's right before we got off.
Unreal, just unreal.
This is just one. The second attempt, we were captured. And this is when the story gets tremendous, because they have never captured an attempted group of 9 people trying to escape. Christians, never.
Okay, so where should we go now? Obviously, we probably haven't got the 2 days at least we need to tell every single detail, but give us, I have such anxiety listening to this and face ache. I'm not lying, I'm traumatized. And I'm not making any jokes too, because this is no way at all funny. And it's fascinating, and it's a beautiful story of survival and faith and love, but not just waiting for Jesus to come along and save you, taking action towards what you wanted, and it went wrong. And now we're about to hear the second installment. And again, to let people know that those of you out there who are immigrants from the past, we know that you still potentially have healing of the inner child in you or the adult in you whenever this occurred, and we have such compassion for you. It's another reason why Corina Pataki is here sharing her story with you. Could you take us to from when you finally get back to grandmother's, and assuming you get cleaned up, and then what happened then? Did your dad come back to you, or did you go with the 9 people to the border again and get captured? And what the hell happened?
Yeah, so yes, we got to my grandmother's house. As you can imagine, she was in shock. Just in shock. And we did not know, we cleaned up, then we went back to our apartment because we lived 30 minutes away from my grandmother. She lived more in the outskirts of the city. We lived in the city. I had to go back to school. We all went back to school. And, you had to maneuver because now neighbors are asking, where's your dad? How come we don't see your dad? So we had to maneuver. Teachers would ask. And again, your neighbors could be the informers. So we were still in a lot of danger. So, we had to make up stories, and, we did. We did not know if my dad had made it. We had no knowledge of it for 3 months. God. 3 months. We had to pick up our life and make it seem as normal as possible. Again, not to draw attention. I remember coming from school one day, and I walked in the house, and my brothers and my mom were ecstatic. My grandmother had a phone in her house, and they were ecstatic. They said, Dad called. He made it to Austria. He was in the refugee camp in Austria. Oh my gosh. So, but you have to be careful because the Securitate is listening to your phone conversations also. So unfortunately, we, the kids, could not talk to my dad because the adults thought, you know, we're going to want to ask questions. And since they're listening to the conversation, but we knew my dad was good. Okay. Oh, so here we go. So it was decided by my parents for my mom to put the legal papers to come to America. Now, the process of coming legally to America from Romania, let me just tell you, my aunt and my uncle took them 7 years to get their passport. That was the hoops and the loops and the red tape that you had to go through if you were allowed, allowed to even put those papers. So that's how long it takes years to get your papers. So my mom and my dad decided for them to put papers to come to America legally, because my dad was believing from Austria to be able to come, because Reagan was president, through the reunification, the family reunification law that he passed. Okay. So that was decided. So we were going to put the paperwork, and the way it is, you know, you get your, I don't know, lack of better words, your small papers in, your medium papers, and then your large papers. And then if you're approved for that, then you have to, you know, go to Bucharest, the capital, back and forth. And then they're going to give you the passport, maybe. And then maybe they're going to give you a visa. So it's a lot of hoops. Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Your dad's in Austria and he advises you, because he's obviously taken advice of how to get you safe passage to America, but you've got to have family there, unify the family. So who was in America as a family member?
Well, my dad believed that he would be allowed because of persecution, that they would allow him from us, that America would receive him being a refugee in Austria. And that took a miracle also. But it happened.
Right.
So my dad was speaking those things that were not as if they would be. So he was speaking his future into existence. That's really what he was doing.
Yeah.
So he told my mom, put the paperwork in, because I know I'm going to make it. I know that America is going to accept me because of a political asylum. And it did not look like it would happen, because again, you know, there's so many people. Yet my dad was chosen. If I remember correctly, about 3 months after he spoke to my mom, which is, again, a miracle, because it takes years, if it's going to happen, years. So before my dad even was in America, my mom started putting the paperwork. And then my dad made it to America as, you know, a political asylum. Okay. So then he started putting the paperwork for the reunification of the family. So my dad was working from America. My mom was putting the paperwork in Romania. Well, all of a sudden, there is an opportunity because again, remember, in our thoughts, in my mom's mind, this could take years for us to be reunited with my father. Oh, but there is a possibility, because there is a group of, I think it was 6 people at that time, that are going to attempt to escape Romania. And this time is going to work. We believe it's going to work. So Florica, why don't you and the kids come along? And this time my uncle was part of the group also. So he really encouraged strongly my mom to join the group. You know, you're putting the paperwork, but who knows how long that's going to be. You may be like my aunt, and 5 years and still nothing's happening.
Yeah.
But right now you have a chance. You have a chance. You have a chance, because I know we're going to make it. So Dani, long story short, my mom decides, she agrees that we're going to attempt to escape for the second time. This was probably 8 months after our first attempt. Yeah, because it was early May, and it was still cold in Romania. Early May. Okay. So we attempt to escape. This time we were driven to the border. We got out of the car, and you run in the fields. I'm going to try to just give some of the highlights, because it's such a long story. So again, it was nighttime. You had to go nighttime. I'm going to share this with you. it's called I don't know what you call it in English, but it's one of the bigger rivers in Romania. We had to cross that before we can go again through Yugoslavia. We were supposed to go through the borders of Yugoslavia, try to attempt our escape. And obviously I couldn't swim. So this was what we were told. They took us, the kids, so me and my two brothers, across this huge big river. And they said, when you cross over, don't wait. Crawl, crawl, crawl. And we're going to catch up with you. Dani, they crossed me over. I don't know where my brothers are. I know my mom's behind me somewhere. Again, it's so dark that I cannot see anything in front of my eyeballs. I hear stuff everywhere. I'm panicking. I hear dogs. Dani, I hear the wolf dogs. But I can't make a sound. I cannot cry out for my mom. I cannot cry out for my brothers. I don't know where anybody is. I'm crawling, crawling, crawling on my tummy. And all of a sudden, Dani, they're all around me. These wolf dogs that I know, they're trained. You are their meal. And what they do, they jump at the jugular. That's what they do. All of a sudden, I sense, because I didn't see it, I sense like a little bush in front of me. It was like a small one. And I get behind the bush. And Dani, these dogs are so close. They're sniffing at my feet. I had no more shoes on again, lost my shoes. They're sniffing my head. I can feel their breath on my hair. At that moment, I close my eyes and I'm like, Father, take me. I don't want to feel them ripping me. I don't want to feel it. Please take care of my mommy and my brothers. Please take care of them. Take me. Because I knew that I was done. Then you hear me. I was out. I was taken. I don't have a memory where I was taken yet. Memories are coming back. A lot of memories are coming back. But what I know, and my mom said it was over an hour that those wolf dogs were all around me. And all of a sudden, I come to with my mom holding me and crying, saying, you're okay, baby, you're okay. Wow. They didn't touch me. Dani, these dogs could not touch me. Do you understand? And when I saw them, I saw them when we were captured. They took mud, these soldiers. They made it into a ball and they threw it among these wolves. They were biting each other. Who was going to eat that mud ball? That's how starved these dogs were, and they didn't touch me for over an hour. But in order for me to be protected from more trauma, I was taken. Okay. I have to, we continue to go, you can't stop and all of a sudden I remember I saw the moon, bright, full moon. And I saw a hill, and my uncle pointed his hand and he said, that's where Yugoslavia is. And to me, it seemed like it's just over that hill. I was so excited. So the adults, how sometimes stupid adults can be.
Yes.
They make a decision and they decide that, we might as well spend the night on the border and wait till the next night and finish our journey.
Oh, God.
Yeah, right? Bad decision.
Yeah.
So the grass, Dani, was tall grass, like, 5-foot grass. The grass was so high. So what we do, we crawl in an area. Again, it's pitch dark. You can't really see, but we see, it's tall grass. So we hide there. Again, my clothes were my brother's clothes. It was soaked on us. My mom said that she was so scared that we were going to get our teeth. My teeth were shaking uncontrollably. We had to sleep in the wet mud with wet clothes. I mean, when you have children, you know what I'm saying? Dani, I finally fall asleep because I was so cold and I was hurting, but I finally fell asleep and I wake up to voices. And I want to get up, and my mom says, no, shh, keep your head down, keep your head down. She's crying. I peek through the grass, and there's peasant driving a huge, what do you call those machines that you tilt the ground with?
Tractor, plow.
Yeah, thank you. Tractor. Huge red tractor. And I hear my uncle saying, oh, sir. Because he's like, what are you doing here? Oh, sir, we got lost. Can you please help us find our way back? Oh, you got lost. Okay, I'm going to come with some help. It's okay, don't worry. I'll come with some help. You just stay there. Oh, thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
God.
Danny, he comes back with about 50 soldiers, like beasts. They're like monsters, with machetes, with long metal poles, on horseback, on foot, screaming. Danny, they look like demonized, making a screeching sound, just animalistic sounds. Get out! Just, if you know demonized people, how they look, that's how they looked. Almost like drooling of excitement that they captured us. We came out. They were coming at us with guns, with, you know, they had those guns, what do you call them, that even have the guns and then they have the sword?
Yeah,
They
bayonet.
even had those, okay? And I know those are, you know, and big metal poles screaming, coming towards us. My mom's grabbing us. I'm saying, Father, I'm like, please, I don't want to see them hurting my mom. I don't want to see them hurting my brothers. Please. Danny, they approach us, and all of a sudden, one of them that's on the horses says, stop it. There's a woman with 3 children. Stop it. Down, cussing. Cut the F down. Stop it. They come and they surround us to protect us. Okay, Danny, this is unfreaking heard of. This is unheard of. That's why our case was so shocking in Romania. Okay. So they come down, they look at my uncle, my feet, they look at me, my feet are all bloodied. Danny, the way they treated me was like I was their little sister. It's unnatural.
Wow.
They saw my feet were bloody. You know, they have, you know how you have those spikes in the fields with pointy, they were all in my feet, in my legs, because I lost my socks, my shoes, they were just raw. So my uncle, he's so funny. He decides to change on the border in his pajamas, because he was very wealthy and very well to do with, if you know what I'm saying. So he decides that he must change in his pajamas when he's on the border, right? So when they saw him with his pajamas and his briefcase, and they saw my feet, they beat the crap out of him. Pick him up. You know, they made fun of him because he's in his pajamas. Then when they heard he's my uncle, so I started crying. I said, no, please don't hurt him. He was the closest thing to my dad. And I hugged him and I kissed him and I wiped his blood off his face. And I said, please don't hurt him. Please. So he goes, it's okay. He picked me up on his, you know, on his neck. They took us to it seemed like it was forever, but it wasn't forever. Our walk. Danny, hear me. Do you know where the Border Patrol station was? The grass that we were hiding in, the Border Patrol station was about 20 feet away from there.
Oh my God.
So it's interrogation time now. How much time do you have? I don't want to take.
This is important.
Okay. It's interrogation time now. The adults are freaking out because we are not supposed to tell them that somebody drove us, because then they're going to go after the people that drove us to the border. So we're just supposed to say we walked. But you know, they know how to interrogate. And as you can imagine, we were all horrified. How are they going to interrogate? They're not nice, right? So we all went by ourselves in. You know, I said nobody took us. The way they interrogated us children was with sweets, because we had no sweets in Romania during that time. So they were bribing us with sweets, but we did not give. We stuck to the story. Okay. They take us from there and they lock us in in their individual tiny rooms with cement walls, cement floor, and metal benches. That's it. There's 2 metal benches. That's it. And everybody's by themselves. Me and my mom and my 2 brothers were in a room. Everybody's individually closed in. Danny, all of a sudden, they opened the door to our cell. And the guy that's in charge says, kids, come on out. There's cherry trees. These Border Patrol are now picking me up in their hands, climbing the cherry tree, and stretching me so I can grab cherries off the tree so I can eat cherries. They're allowing my brothers to climb the cherry trees. Do you understand these monsters that were like animals? Completely shifted. Completely. I'm crying, and they say, why are you crying? I'm worried about my mom. I'm worried about my uncle. Can I please take these to my uncle and my mommy? They let me take they opened the. This is not how they are.
Yeah. This little girl, this little Corina Pataki is handling the monsters.
It's incredible how they were with me and my brothers, and the favor that the others had because of me and my brothers. Okay. So, sorry. My little panther guardian decided to come say hello. Okay. So now this gentleman comes, I believe, don't quote me on that. It's in my book. I think he's the colonel, if I remember correctly. He comes to the place we're at. So this is again where miracles start happening. He calls my mom. He arrived there. He drove 3-4 hours. I don't remember exactly, but he drove, and he tells my mom, he kicks everybody out of the office. He calls my mom in and he says, I got a phone call in the middle of the night. And I knew based on the wolf dogs, I was called that somebody was on the border trying to escape. I got a phone call and I was told that they were captured. I got a phone call and I was told it's Christians and a stupid mother with 3 children that would put her children in danger. And he said, I told them to let you rot. I don't care. Listen what he says. I put my head down to sleep and I couldn't. He says, I got another phone call. I tried to sleep and I couldn't. Something woke me up. I knew I had to come, drive down here, get you and your children out of this, and take you back to Timișoara. Dani, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, absolutely.
This huge command guy, man in a high position, colonel, I think, I'm not 100%, drives down from his hometown, from his bed, coming to make sure that we don't spend 1 more hour in close. I'm quoting him. At first, he takes my mom's, all her money, says, how much money do you have? She gives it all to him. And at the end of the conversation, he goes, here's all your money back. He looked at my mom and he said, the God that you're worshiping is real, because I normally would not, and he cussed, give an F. He said, but I had to come pick you up. Listen to me. They took us. Yes, they took us in a truck. All the other people, Dani, they took them to the prison. They took them to prison. The rest of the people in the group, including my uncle, they took me, my 2 brothers, and my mom. They dropped us off in front of my grandmother's house. Okay. So here's the court date, another huge miracle. The court date comes. The courthouse is absolutely packed. There's people outside. There's reporters.
Why are you in court?
Because now we had to go to the judge, to see the judge, because now
the newspapers reporting on this.
The newspapers were, yep, they were reporting on it because it was such a huge case. So we were supposed to go to court to receive our sentence. So my uncle and the rest of the people, I'm so sorry. My uncle and the rest of the people were taken to prison, held until their court date. My mom, my two brothers, were taken to my grandmother's house. So including women. Now, there were two other women in that group. So it's not because, you know, my mom was a woman. They don't care about that stuff. So when we went to the court, when we saw the judge was really mean. He told my mom, he said, "You are stupid. Now I'm going to throw that book at you." He said, "What your punishment is to do hard labor, 12 to 14 hour a day of hard labor."
Evil, just fucking evil.
Now listen, we were going to be on the streets. You have no babysitters in Romania, okay? Listen to what I'm telling you. Every single one of those people served their sentence. My mom did not present herself yet because she did not get the paper of where she needs to start serving her sentence. Hear me? At the same time, our legal papers for America were still going.
Oh my God.
Now they should have stopped them. Like, hell no, you're not going to. Are you crazy? It's like they were invisible. They could not find them. Dani, we were praying for a miracle. You want to know the miracle? Let me tell you the miracle. Everybody was serving their time. My uncle was in jail. The men were in jail. The two women were serving their sentence by doing hard labor, 12 to 14 hours a day. You know what we prayed for? That Ceausescu, the dictator, would do a pardon. Do you know how often that happened when he pardoned everybody? 0. So this was the prayer that we all engaged with, the adults especially, and us children, because I knew the situation. That Ceausescu would give a pardon and that we would receive the passport. Okay, that's crazy, right? That's crazy. Dani, my mom kept waiting, and she kept waiting. So there was we call them prophets. You know, you call them oracles, you call them whatever. And they had a vision, Dani, and this is what this person saw. Told my mom, "I see that there is this judge and he has black glasses on, and you will not serve 1 second of your sentence because I have blinded their eyes." Okay, we don't know what to make of that. Dani, I believe it was 6 months. My mom still did not serve 1 second of her sentence.
So she's in the court waiting for her sentence.
Yeah, she's.
And so what happens in the court?
So,
Does she go back home with you? And
yes. So
okay.
What happens? The judge says, you know, gives her the sentence. Go home. Your sentence will be delivered to you, and you have to show up at this particular hard labor place and you serve it. Everybody was serving theirs. Here's like 6 months, 4 to 6 months pass. My mom doesn't get that paper. She doesn't get the telegram. So she's still waiting. So then this prophecy comes. I have blinded them, and you will not serve 1 second of your sentence. She's still waiting. We're praying for a miracle, Ceausescu to pardon. I'm at my grandmother's house, Dani. It's a weekend. I'm sleeping. I'm waking up in the morning with excitement exploding in that house. My cousins are coming, shaking me, going, Corina, wake up. Ceausescu gave a pardon. Ceausescu. Do you understand something happened that's not happened before?
What date was this?
I don't remember. I have to look back.
How old are you?
By now, I am 9 years old. By now, I am 9 years old. So listen to me. Ceausescu gives a pardon, and my mom receives finally a telegram from the courthouse telling her to present herself to the courthouse. She goes on that day to the courthouse and goes to the front desk, and they're like, Miss Tans, you need to go to this office. And she goes in and she sits down, and there's this guy, and he has a file in front of him. Now remember, this is the excitement. Ceausescu gave a pardon. He says, Miss Tans, throws the file on the table, goes, do you know why you did not serve 1 second of your sentence? She says, well, I know what my God told me. I know why I didn't serve. He goes, no. Do you want to know why? She said, why? Your file was attached to a person that has been dead for 25 years, locked up somewhere in the back of a file.
Oh
We found it this morning through it. He said, I need to know this God that you serve. I need to know Jesus, because I was an atheist. But this shows me that there's powers, supernatural powers at work. I want to know this person. Listen, then he says to her, hear me. He goes, now, Miss Tons. So my mom, of course, starts witnessing, right? Telling him who divine source is, who Yeshua is. So he says to her, take your file and go to this office next door in the same building. They have your passport ready for you. You understand? This is who divine creator is.
Amazing.
This is the supernatural power of love that can interfere in any darkness, no matter what situation. This is the supernatural power that can interfere and intervene in our reality and change it. Change this chaotic, horrific reality into something beautiful, because that's what love does. Now, when she went to get the passport, that person did not want to let it go.
Wow.
Miss Tons, here's your passport. Do you know how many top leaders stepped out of atheism because of this story? They could not deny it. So we did come legally in Chicago, 1983. We flew and we were reunited with my father in Chicago.
Mike, tell us when you saw your daddy again.
I have to tell you, it was really strange, because at this point, let's see, 7, 8, 9, I haven't seen him for 2 years. So when I saw him, it was to me like he was a stranger.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, I went and I hugged him, and I was his little girl, the youngest, so I don't want to say favorite, but
You're his favorite. Were you
You
at the
know.
airport, in a hotel, like
airport? All these Romanians came, these friends of the family and family came, and they met us at the airport. I cannot tell you how, when I saw my dad, I wanted to run to him, and I ran to him, but then I was like, I was embarrassed, because I'm like, 2 years for a little child, it's it changes. And of course, my dad grabbed me, but I have to tell you, on the airplane, the stewardess came and they gave some Rollads, those chocolates. I know you guys know what I'm talking about.
Rolos?
Yes, that.
I love me a Rolo.
Okay, that. So she came and she handed it to me. Of course, I didn't understand a lick of English. She handed it to me like this, and I looked at her like I'm not believing, because I thought I'd just get one or maybe half of one. And when she like, no, the whole thing's for you, I took it. I mean, just little things like that. And of course, seeing my dad and just, I couldn't sleep obviously that night. It was it was going from one realm to a totally different realm in reality. So because of that, I started writing my story when I was 14, handwriting it. I was told, Corina, write your story, because eventually it will be a book, and eventually it will be made into a movie, because it brings so much hope to people that are going through so much, trauma, so much hardship, so many circumstances that we're trying to bind them in a reality that is fake, that is based on victimhood and suffering, and you know what I'm saying? So I did. When I was 14, I started handwriting it. When I learned to type, I started typing it, and now it's a book. We're on our 2nd edition, so yeah.
God, it's so beautiful. I want to, before we, obviously we're going to give everyone the name of the book, etc., but I'm so caught up in the beautiful reunion. What did your mom like? What was your mom like? Like, what did she do when she saw her husband?
She cried and cried and cried and cried and cried and cried and cried. We have pictures, from from arriving. There was quite a few pictures, and she cried and she cried and she cried, and then she laughed, she smiled, you know, it was tears, as you can imagine, because we thought he was dead.
Can't imagine. And the boys, your brothers, like how were
Oh, they were ecstatic. They were, of course, we all cried. You know, they were, especially my older brother. He tried to act macho, but he broke down crying. My dad hugged us, and I remember picking me up, and I had a little doll that my favorite aunt gave to me to bring to America. And just, it was, the next day waking up in America was surreal, absolutely surreal.
what month was this? Because Chicago gets
August.
oh, okay.
August.
Fucking hot.
Yeah.
It's sweltering heat.
August 31st of 1983.
Oh, darling.
Yeah. So
Well, had your dad got an apartment together or
yes, he got an apartment, he had a job, he prepared everything, you know, for us to be able to be there. Now, you know, Chicago was not quite what I had in mind, you know, because in Europe, everything's stuccoed, right? So here, when I saw our building, you know, just empty bricks, I'm like, what is this?
Yeah, you might want to. So going back a little bit for those that
Yes.
don't know, because obviously I grew up in England, in Britain, and you were trying to dash to Yugoslavia, which doesn't exist anymore. It's now Czech Republic, which is several different countries. Can you tell us what those countries are now that was Yugoslavia, former Yugoslavia?
It is the Czech Republic, and it's Bosnia, I believe. That's when in 1997, 1992, when the war was, you know, they were trying to annihilate, you know, what they always try to do. So,
Side.
yeah, I believe it's Bosnia. And unfortunately, I'm not sure off the top of my head. I have to.
Well, I know from that time when the Bosnian War came to its end, its horrific end, and then Yugoslavia was kind of, the name no longer existed. And now all of a sudden in Europe, we're really focused on Croatia.
Yes.
Such a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful country, European country. And it's because of all the decimation and the genocide and the murders that have gone on in all of these different countries in the last 60 years, we're talking. It wasn't like it was 100 years ago. But these dictatorships, these communist dictators or whatever, just dictators in general, which none of us should follow. Not one dictator, I don't care who you are. And so, oh my God, the history of our planet is just so heartbreaking and tragic and violent and beautiful. And stories like this just give us hope, but it is also a warning. Yeah. Because we are looking, I remember I think it was 3 years ago, it was before the COVID horror. I watched a Jewish man who had suffered in the Holocaust, right? That did exist, that happened. Yes. And there are people trying to delete that from us. You know, that they're trying to erase that history, right? So there was a man, he was in his 90s, this beautiful man, fit, healthy, strong man, survivor of the Holocaust, looking into a camera and crying and begging and saying, please, please, we are headed for another Holocaust. I see the signs. I see the signs. And that was before the jab before situation, which is an aspect of this global plan. So for people to hear your story, it's beautiful, it's hopeful, but it's also a wake-up call.
It is
a wake-up call. Gosh, I'm so excited to hear that your dad and your brothers and the way that you tell story, Corina, you emote and you emit, and I truly believe that those soldiers saw this beautiful little girl with these huge green eyes, and whatever it is light you hold, your own essence, just reflected and just bounced out of you, because it's just so magical to have survived what you've lived and survived. And I just love it for your mother so much, his desperate mother and father that finally got back together. Are they still with us? Are they still living?
Yes, they are. They are. Actually, we're going to go see them next week. We're going. Yeah.
Solid update from your dad getting a job. What job did he get? And then how was life to the current day? Just a synopsis.
Yeah. Oh, he continued to do what he did in Romania, which was what do you call it? a special engineer on a specific machine, for tools. So continue to do that. And now they own some land outside of Florida because he loves, having little chickens, and so he went from that. We lived in Chicago, then they moved to Florida, and now it's somewhere or out, in the northern part of Florida with lots of land. And so they're enjoying everything that they're learning. As I have been awakening, I have shared, and they have been awakening, which is huge, 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 from, the religious programming coming out into realization of what. So I love their journey. They have also gone on their quest for truth, as I have been on my quest, because they see it. They see the fruit. So the fruit that they have seen is made them stop and ask me questions, and then look at the proof. And then they look at the fruit and they're like, okay, oh my gosh. So they have been, Dani, they have been on their own quest for truth. That's remarkable. Remarkable.
What's beautiful to me is that your dad already had an insight into love and faith and passion, whereas your mother was never allowed, as many people in different countries are completely starved of any kind of hope. They live under a dark cloud of
Yes.
one dictator. And we need to realize that, how lucky we are where we've been, but now we're seeing it. The signs are there for every one of us, and none of us are going to escape this coming to our attention.
Yes.
But it's just so lovely that your mum and dad and your mum's faith got her to a certain point, got you all praying, got you all connecting, whether it was Jesus or Buddha or whatever. It was a love, a passion, a belief in something higher, which of course there is. Not that it owns us, it doesn't, we're parts of it. And so this,
absolutely,
we're not trying to convert anyone to Christianity here at all. I met Jesus when I was 7 in my room, a physical being surrounded by angels. I knew that he is real, and I knew the adults at church and those Christians were liars and fearful, and I was physically abused by them for saying that I saw Jesus in my room. They're like, who are you? You have the devil in you. So the adults down and be quiet.
And see, Dani, I love what you're saying here, because this is something, especially speaking now of my parents, using them as an example. They have seen, or I have seen, what communism does. At the beginning, you asked me, what is communism like? And I gave some descriptions. Do you know that if not all of them, a lot of them, of the same sort of evil attributes are in religion?
Of course.
Because as communism, it has nothing to do with relationship between the leaders and the people. There's no equality. There's a dictator, and then there's the little puny people. The same with religion. There's dictators, controllers, right? In all types of churches. I'm not saying all of them. No. And then there's the puny people. And you cannot get directly to Father except through man. And that's exactly what communism has done. So I see the correlation. That's why I'm so vocal about awakening. And it has nothing to do with religion. It has to do with relationship. Just like communism, people have no freaking idea what they're asking for, especially this younger generation, how they're being corrupted, their minds at colleges. If they think that communism is going to take care of you, and it's a relationship between your leaders and your people, you have another thing coming. It's control. It's manipulation. It's a dictatorship. It's telling you what to do. The beginning is going to be all nice and till they get you. And then it's going to unleash the truth of the fullness of the programming of this evil energy that is utilizing both communism and religion. So there's definitely a correlation.
There is, and it's so easy to see it if you just stop worrying about, when I was growing up in the Bible, I would absolutely vomit if I saw a person like me. If I saw a woman that sees people who've crossed over, who sees angels, who sees extraterrestrials in solid form, who sees angels, I would want to be sick. I would choose evil. I'm the face of evil that I was told to stay away from. I am everything bad from hell and disgusting. until I couldn't deny my own natural abilities, supernatural, that we all have, that we all have.
Yes.
And then I realized how at 7, what liars adults are. What the hell are we doing? I think it's beautiful, again, back to your mum and dad, and it's such a beautiful ending to us. What a love story. I mean, they're such a huge part of this little 7-year-old baby girl, that they're such a part of her life and her journey. It's equal parts, really. But to know that they made it together, they're still together after all that trauma, and the love and joy they felt seeing each other. Oh, just beautiful, beautiful. So anyway, we didn't come here to dictate, of course. We just want people to think. We just want to bring love and care, and we want to bring your experience to witness your beautiful healing, Corina. And knowing that there are people out there going through the same as you, generational trauma, and we want to help them bring love and light to it.
Yes, absolutely.
Is there any advice from your personal experience that you could give to someone who suffered in the way that you have at this time?
Yes, I just want to encourage you. If you've suffered, if you've gone through any sort of trauma, know that there is hope. Dare to believe that there is hope. And the moment you just connect in your heart to that hope, which is based in love, because remember, whatever you look to, whatever you observe, that's going to multiply. So when you observe hope, even if it's a tiny bit of hope, then that is going to multiply back to you. And that hope is going to bring to you the abundance of what belongs to you because of who you are. You are beautiful. You are fractals of divine source. You are wonderfully made in the image of this powerful, mighty infinity that is full of love. That is you. So if you can just, from the pain that you're feeling, if you could just look through that into hope, I promise you, if you just take a glimpse at that hope, just hope for the next minute that it's going to be a bit better. Hope for the next 5 minutes that it's going to be a bit better. Hope for tomorrow. I promise you, when you look to that, that is going to then multiply whatsoever you've desired yet did not see back in you. So just hope. Hope maybe that you're going to laugh. Hope maybe that you're going to have a restful night. It starts with hope. Hope and love are connected. Love is the energy that brings forth your hope, the hope that you dare to see.
So beautiful. I want to say to people too, I have a huge cry in me that I'm going to have after this broadcast, because I'm going to honor the feelings that are rising in me. And I really want to invite people to do the same, because we go through life thinking, oh, Corina's been through so much and you haven't. It's so sad and beautiful and all the emotions in the rainbow, truly. And this is an opportunity for healing for all of us in so many ways. And we are told, oh yeah, but Corina, you know, she's had a much worse time. And that again is a shutdown of humanity healing their own, because whatever we've gone through has a value to us and deserves to have attention to heal. And that was another kind of psychological operation to go, who are you to cry? You've never been through what Corina's been through, struggling, almost getting eaten by wolf dogs after trying to escape a second time. You know, you aren't the Jewish little girl that was standing on the edge of the pit and seeing everyone get shot and pushed in. And she had the courage to say, what happens if I step out of line? And the soldier said, I won't stop you. And that was her opportunity. I mean, all these things. So in the horror of the world and the way that we give control to the wrong people, that right now we focus on our inner healing for all the traumas that we've gone through, lest it build a bigger, stronger heart, bigger faith in our ability as a humanity. Forget the religions. That's what keeps us separated too. Like you said, for me, the aspect, the healing, the everything power is love. It is love. There's nothing more beautiful.
It's key. It's key. Wow, Danny, you're just amazing. I love what you're saying, that sometimes we look at other people's situation and we poo-poo our own,
Yes,
and we never heal
that's right. We're
because
guilt. We're passing off the guilt. We're
absolutely.
feeling shame that's not even ours. And
Yeah,
we're passing it off, and we have to acknowledge. So
we have to.
yeah,
Yeah,
anyone
because
who feels like a good cry like I do,
yeah,
after this, have it. Honor your beautiful self.
absolutely.
Honor that baby girl inside of you, that baby boy inside of you.
Yeah,
And that is the biggest key to love that the controllers don't want you to have access to. And that's a fact.
yeah.
What is the name of your great book, please?
It's called The Quest for Freedom.
And is it under Pataki or Conch?
It's Pataki, yes.
So Corina Pataki,
Corina Pataki, yes.
Quest for Freedom. Now, I
Yes.
know that you went on to become a great speaker. At one point, you were a very prolific preacher, preaching the word.
Yeah.
And now you are in a frame of mind that is presented right now in front of us. May you give us, oh, how are the boys? How are your brothers?
They're good. And with their families, they're doing great. Yes, thank you for asking.
That's so beautiful. Well, I know others are thinking the same thing as me. Like, how are the boys? How's
Everybody's doing
dad?
awesome.
Oh, how's grandma? She may have crossed. Has grandma crossed, or is she still living?
Oh, she's crossed. Yes.
Well,
She's crossed
love.
about, yeah, 12 years ago. Yes.
Okay. All right. We're going to put your emails, your website, your book link, everything right under this video. But may I come to you for final words to our beautiful audience who are really in the midst of their own healing, their own growth. They're very confused about people who are trying to put them on this side or this side, and there is no side. But what would you like to leave us with, my love?
The only side that we need to be on is the side of love. That's it. Because love, and I'm not talking about mushy gushy, oh, I just love you. And then behind, I'm going to talk about you and stab you in the back. That's not love. I'm talking about love as the ultimate energy and power, the greatest force that there ever was, that there ever will be, and that there ever is, that creates. Because only that creates, you guys. And only that can bear fruit that brings hope for a future that is full of abundance and life. So I want to just encourage every single person, connect and stand in love. It's not about religion. Number one, it's not. It's about relationship. And relationship comes out of love. Stay connected in love. Most important. Thank you, Dani, so much.
That's so beautiful. Corina, thank you so much. There's so many reasons why I wanted to invite you to share your story, and also for people to not just assume you're some woman full of color and vibrance and authority, to come out and start breaking down the Bible and decoding the Bible, which you did two beautiful, one on your channel, which is called The Quest for Truth
Yes.
on
Yes.
YouTube, and also with Elena Danan. And I thought, on my watch, I'm not going to allow that judgment that can come in for this very passionate woman. Let's find out who this passionate lady is. What brought forth this love that she has to share for her brothers and her sisters on this planet. And
Yeah.
that's why we're having this beautiful conversation.
Thank you.
So thank you, Corina Pataki. I'm sure that we'll be revisiting on my lovely channel again at some point in the future. Thank you, my love.
Thank you, Dani. Thank you so much for having me. I so appreciate your heart, your love, and everything you do, and for having me on.
My pleasure. My pleasure. I have the best guests. I just have the best, most fantastic guests. And it's a blessing and an honor to have this channel. It really is. And to you, the beautiful audience, I have the best audience. Oh my God, in the live chats, it's always so full of love. In the comments, I thank you, and just keep doing what you're doing and keep learning and growing together. Let's keep sharing our experiences and uniting hearts in love as we take back our beautiful, beautiful Mother Earth, and humanity, and we run humanity the way that suits all of us, all of us. All right. So to you guys out there, thank you. I send you my love, and I will see you soon.